Hey, I got these truthburgers, man. Want some?
No. You can't handle the truth. I just want to be in my safe space.
If you were Barbie, you'd insist on the best. And Barbie is the best. Made only by Mattel.
We girls can do anything, right, Barbie? It's time for Barbie. It's magic. Don't forget your tiara, princess.
I hadn't thought about you in years, you fascist.
Well, folks, they've done it. Feminism has hit its apex in the entertainment industry. Who knew that a plastic doll for little girls to play with would be used to promote an anti-family message with sprinkled in justifications for misandry and the oppression of men? But hey, it is 2023 after all, so I guess we shouldn't be too surprised. Now we know what you're thinking. What the fuck are you two on about? It's a Barbie movie. It's not made for men. It's supposed to have a female empowerment message. Sure, but there are other ways to make this movie without turning it into a nearly 2-hour man-hating feminist manifesto. I never believed the day would come where the feminist agenda would be so out in the open. Usually it would just lurk inside of the movie, hidden under its skin. You'd sense something funky perhaps, but this fucking thing and its brainwashing messages pop out of its chest for all to see.
You have to answer for men's bad behavior, which is insane. But if you point that out, you're accused of complaint.
So here we are, your two favorite cunts are back to declare judgment and lay the smack down on this pink-colored, man-hating, corporate-sponsored monster.
In the name of Jesus.
Oh, thank you, Jesus.
I execute judgment on you.
Barbie kicks off with a short introduction to the history of the famous doll, and in a scene that's parodying 2001: A Space Odyssey, we're presented with little girls playing with dolls, as the narrator mumbles some garbage about how little girls were forced to only play as mothers until Barbie came along. The next scene is so disturbing that not even a corpse of Colin Powell can lie away its reasoning, as the little girls are shown smashing the baby dolls, symbolically freeing themselves from the shackles of potential motherhood and the nuclear family as they make way towards becoming their true selves, boss babes. Next, we're introduced to Barbie Land, an oppressive matriarchal society run by diverse variations of Barbie. Meanwhile, the Kens make zero contributions to Barbie Land, except to reassure the Barbies on how awesome they are. In other words, this is a kingdom of simp slaves and OnlyFans subscribers. And of course, because the women run Barbie Land, life is absolutely perfect. It's essentially the type of place dreamt up by a purple-haired feminist who fucks her dog. The only downside is that the way the Barbies are played with by their owners in the real world affects their physical and emotional state in Barbie Land, which is strange given the amount of kids who discard, break, and throw away toys. You'd figure more of the Barbies would appear damaged aside from Kate McKinnon's weird Barbie. Clearly the filmmakers never heard of our cousin Rusty, who'd cut the heads off of dolls and run weird experiments on them.
Oh yeah, cousin Rusty. He was raised by a strong single mom just like us. Man, whatever happened to him?
He's in jail.
Well, shit.
Anyways, the stereotypical Barbie discovers that she's having thoughts about death and getting cellulite, so she must set out to find her owner and figure out what's going on. As Barbie travels to the real world with Ken, reality turns out to be dark and dangerous for women. Barbie gets verbally and physically harassed and someone literally slaps her ass, while her and Ken make their way through Kabul, Afghanistan.
And as they... Wait, what? They didn't arrive in Kabul, Aiden. They arrived in Venice Beach, bro.
Venice Beach?
Yes.
So you're telling me they used Venice Beach in liberal-ass California as an example of a misogynistic place where women have little rights and respect?
Yes, Aiden.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Making matters worse, Ken discovers the evil patriarchy, which teaches him that men are respected in the real world and not subservient morons like he's used to in Barbie Land. Basically, Ken becomes red-pilled. Meanwhile, stereotypical Barbie discovers that the cause of her problems come from Gloria after mistaking her daughter, Sasha, to be the one who's been playing with her. Gloria is a Mattel employee who's struggling to connect with her daughter, so she plays with a plastic doll, despite being a fucking adult. I don't know, but for some reason in 2023 America, this doesn't seem all that weird anymore. Gloria's insecurities are being projected onto Barbie. Honestly, her insecurities probably stem from the fact that she has an odd resemblance to John Leguizamo. And and because of that resemblance, we'll be referring to her as John Leguizamo for the remainder of this review.
Back at Barbie Land, Ken has taught the other Kens about the patriarchy. Together, they take control of Barbie Land and transform it into Ken Land, a terrible place where men and women happily intermingle, you know, like they do in real life. After a short spat with the all-male executives from Mattel who tried to shut Barbie up and put her in a box. How symbolic. Barbie and company make their way back to Barbie Land. Upon their arrival, they're horrified at the sight of men having actual rights. This shit is totally not acceptable, so in true independent boss babe fashion, Barbie becomes depressed. But no worries, John Leguizamo gives some speech on how it's hard to be a woman.
It is literally impossible to be a woman. We have to always be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong. You have to be a career woman, but also always be looking out for other people.
So yeah, a speech about women needing to be bosses but not mean, and something about women being thin but not too thin, and some shit about women needing to tie themselves in knots to satisfy people. I got no fucking idea.
Oh yeah, and there was that part of the speech where she says women need to pretend to be bad at sports. So true. Women are fantastic at sports and just pretend not to be so men can mansplain everything.
Anyhow, this speech inspires Barbie to be self-confident, which ultimately gives the Barbies their power back over the Kens. Positive affirmation gets Barbies to reinstate their dictatorship, and the film ends in the most catastrophic of ways as the Kens return to being second-class citizens while the Barbies essentially run everything. A great message that surely does not fuel gender war propaganda. Oh, and stereotypical Barbie chooses to live in the real world, and the film ends with a joke about her going to see the gynecologist because vagina jokes are hilarious.
Girls rule, women are funny, get over it.
And that's Barbie for you folks. A movie whose plot is as hollow as the inside of the plastic doll it's based on.
Where to start?
This whole thing fucking sucks. I mean, this is the biggest pile of shit.
An anti-family, gender war-driven propaganda piece pushed by corporate America is what this shit is.
Speaking of anti-family, the movie really hates motherhood. From the opening scene that's clear. Hell, even the pregnant Barbie Midge is singled out and ridiculed by the other Barbies as well as the Mattel company.
Oh, I thought we discontinued her.
Because fuck motherhood, that's why. Yes, bullies some of the strongest and most selfless females in the world. Mothers. Corporate boss girl slaves are what they should be. Put a business suit on and kick your baby, ladies.
So does each Barbie have their own house? What do the Kens say? I don't know.
And of course Barbie doesn't want Ken, because fuck traditional relationships between men and women. That shit could lead to a nuclear family, and
we wouldn't want that now, would we? Would we? Would we?
the Kens exist only to validate the Barbies. Hilariously enough, this movie does one thing right. It unintentionally depicts the reality of how many men have grown frustrated with how they're treated by modern society, resulting in many turning towards the red pill movement for guidance. Ken is a submissive beta in Barbie land, hopelessly pining for Barbie's affection. However, when he gets red pilled by the real world, he goes through a transformation. Ken becomes an alpha. He's more confident and realizes that he has more purpose than just serving Barbie. If there's any character we root for, it's Ken. His character arc positively affects the other Kens and Barbies too, as we see the two genders vibing out, which brings us to the realization that this movie is unintentionally a red-pilled masterpiece.
And who could blame people for being all on the Kenergy train? The Barbies are stuck up, privileged, hateful, deceitful, and self-centered bullies. But we're expected to sympathize with their toxic traits because women are victims, y'all. But isn't that all an excuse supremacists use to put others down? Always making themselves victims and fighters for the cause before becoming full-blown evildoers running a dictatorship? You might as well have the Barbies create the People's Republic of Barbie Land in the sequel.
This film is a massive contradiction whose message makes as much sense as Machine Gun Kelly's fashion choice. The Kens are vilified for achieving equal rights, but the Barbies are praised for running a dictatorship. There's so much propaganda in this shit, it's hard to keep track.
I love women. I want to help women.
Everybody hates women. Women hate women and men hate women. It's the one thing we can all agree on.
This woke feminist anti-family narrative has been so played out these past few years that it actually would have been more progressive to show Barbie and Ken together, symbolizing how men and women are a complement to one another.
And since Barbie and Ken have been packaged together as a couple since the 1960s, their relationship must be deconstructed because depicting anything that's remotely traditionally conservative is taboo in modern liberal Hollywood. Don't let these movies fool you, folks. It's a heavily agenda-driven film disguised as a comedy about a doll, one that tries to sell us on how men's toxic masculinity makes them incapable of running society. Therefore, we must step aside and let the matriarchy and sisterhood reign supreme. It teaches women to forgo having a family in favor of chasing career-driven goals and forever living the single life. Something that, when applied to men, we get criticized for. And ladies, if you're willing to follow Hollywood's advice on this one, well, then it's gonna be a lonely life for you. Just look at how Barbie ends up in the sequel.
And that's all, folks. We are Aiden and Ollie.
And we're our single mom's whole world.
And please, stop swiping left on her Tinder profile.